Hey, it's Katie. If you're going to survive the recession, if you're going to thrive over the next few years in this hard economy, you're going to have to stay relevant. You're going to have to be aligned with what you offer, and you're going to have to be visible. Today's video is all about how to stay relevant, and I'd like to encourage you to go ahead and subscribe now so you don't miss any of the rest of this. And there's also a link down below where you can grab the full teaching that I taught at our recent Handprint Legacy Live. Thanks. We'll see you soon.
Three specific things we're going to look at today that will help us enlarge our tent. Number one is relevance. Number two is alignment. And number three is visibility. If we're going to be relevant in our business, what does this mean? And Flamingo Advantage, how to leverage unique, stay relevant, and change the world. We're talking about relevant. What does it mean to be relevant to the time? How many of you have watched the news in the last couple of days? What's going on in our world? What are some of the things that are happening right now? Good, bad, indifferent, I don't care. Just put them in the chat. Like, what's happening in the world? What do we see in the news? What are we hearing about in society? Catherine says just chaos. Yes, but okay, there's wars happening, shootings, dollar imploding, recession, conspiracy theories, all of these things, right? How do we make our business relevant to what's going on in the world? I just had this conversation with Danielle at the retreat, the Queen's Mastermind retreat a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about, she works in personal finance, and she has this program to help people pay off their credit cards and get out of debt. And so we were talking about, like, how do we be relevant in society right now? Are people really spending time thinking about, how do I get out of debt? Is that what they're laying awake at night worried about right now, when groceries cost double and gas is triple what it was in some places, right? Like, most people are probably not thinking about how to get out of debt right now and pay off their credit cards. They're trying to figure out how to put food on the table this week. And so for her, being relevant to the times that we're living in, being relevant to the conversations going on in her right fit person's head, means maybe I step away from the credit card thing and I focus on, how do we stretch our money? How do we make $50 do double what it used to, because food costs double what it used to? How do we find those pennies that happen to slip through the cracks and save them and put them to good use elsewhere? And so we were able to look at what she's doing and switch that focus of her lead magnet and her opt-in to how to stretch your money when times are tight, to be able to get more people into her list than she could have with the credit card thing right now. Is that one still valid? Yes, it's absolutely valid. It still will help people pay off their credit cards, right? And that's still a need in today's world. But the more present need in people's minds is, how do I make my money stretch? How do I cover my basic necessities? And so as you're thinking about what's going on in the world today for your people, and this could be different for your different niches, your person, the right fit person that we talked about yesterday, and we sat and thought and prayed through, what are they thinking and what are they feeling and what are they fearing? What kind of conversations are going on in their head right now according to the world that we live in? If they're a young family, they're going to have different things that they're talking about than perhaps a retired family with a full retirement account. If they've got children in the home versus no children, if they're living on the East Coast versus if they're living on the West Coast, they may have different conversations going on. How do you make what you do relevant to your people in the time that we live in? This is the question that we want to be brainstorming and be asking. This is why I think it's good for those of us who are marketing our business to not live in the news, but to pay attention to it. We know we're coming into the end times and the world's going to go crazy. We know who wrote the end of the story, but they don't always. And if they do, they may not be thinking about that right now. They may be believing the lies and the propaganda of what's going on. How can we be relevant to that conversation and come in and give hope with what we can do through our business? If you're helping parents with relationships, or if you're helping for college prep, or if you've got an education class, like, how can you bring your work into that conversation? Not to have an opinion and to polarize necessarily, but to be part of the conversation they're already having in their homes with some hope and some answers from a different perspective. Rachel, with your quilting, like, what's going on in the world right now that quilting could bring some perspective to? All of the cultural issues. Well, you know what? When you've got multicolored pieces of fabric, all cut in different ways, They don't have to be exactly the same to make something beautiful when they come together. That's a way for us to get into the conversation that's happening in the world around us, in the world, but not of the world, bringing the hope of Jesus into our marketing as a way to bring hope and help to the people who need it based on what's going on in their minds right now, what conversations they're having, what's top of mind for them. How do I be relevant to that right now with my business being the answer? People are tight on money. This is the perfect time to take the skills and the knowledge that you have online and build a course with it so you can help people also learn to do what you do. And if it's a skill that makes money, even better, because now you can sell that and make money to provide for you, to teach them a skill that they can do for money to provide for them. And so looking for ways to be relevant, this is going to be key in the next few years for the businesses that survive and the businesses that go under. If you can't be relevant to what is happening in our world, to what is topmost of mind for your people, you're not going to survive, because as money gets tighter and pressures get higher, no one's going to be investing in the fluff. Connie talks about this being the recession and about how ups and downs hit different businesses at different times, right? It's like the ripples that Kathy talks about, where you drop a stone in a pond and it sends out the ripples. Well, in every ripple, there are high spots and low spots, and high spots and low spots. And they get a little bit, the highs get a little lower and the lows get a little higher each time until eventually it flattens out again. But when we have something happen like the last 2 years in our economy, it creates a huge drop in the water. And we're still riding those ripples. They haven't evened out yet. There's still going to be highs and lows that hit people differently as we go from here. How can you be front and center as people hit those in bringing the hope that your business provides? So I want you to take just a second now, and I want you to ask the question, how can my business be relevant to current events?